Welcome to the RetroSuburbia online edition special Crisis 2020 version of David Holmgren's best-selling book. I'm just here to give a little bit of a ukulele welcome and also just to acknowledge the Jaja Warong country that we're on and also invite you to acknowledge any Indigenous custodians where you are, because if you think about it, that is the reason that we can be here today, is because people over thousands of years have taken care of this country, and that's what this is all about. So I'd like to just acknowledge that and start with a little song while you all arrive. Seems like a lot of you have arrived already. There's quite a lot of you out there, so thanks for coming down. Remember, if you're watching on Facebook, you can start a watch party, and that'll get even more people down. We need as many people as we can. This is a party, folks. This is a Retro Suburbia, you know, kickstarting the home economy party. So let's get all the crew involved. Well, some people tell me that I'm crazy 'cause I do things that don't fit in with the rest of society. Like my love of small spaces, my room ain't too large. I just live in a box underneath my house, off the corner of my garage. But the edge is where it's at, and it's easy to create. And my mama always said, if you're not living on the edge, then you're taking up too much space. Well, I've been looking to settle down, maybe find someplace nice where I can get my hand on some marginal land and turn it into paradise. Well, the smaller the better, and I don't even care if it's bad. I guess I'm the kind of fella who'll always be a fringe dweller, just do the best I can with what I have. Because the edge is where it's at. We gotta work that interface. 'Cause my mama always said, if you're not living on the edge, then you're taking up too much space. That's right. Yes, she did. Now, everyone out there, I want you to make a pledge to acknowledge the edge and grow some veg and stack it up on a ledge. 'Cause wherever things come together, you'll find it getting better. You'll fall so in love with the edge, you'll want to write it a love letter. Just broaden your range at the place of exchange. You've got nothing to lose and everything to gain. 'Cause there's every single color sitting between white and black, and a well-beaten path ain't no ways the right track. No, it's right. If you've just joined us, we are at the Retro Suburbia online edition book launch with David Holmgren and Costa Georgiadis coming very soon. Don't forget, if you're watching on YouTube, you can ask questions. If you're on Facebook, you can start a watch party and invite all of your friends. Let's share this out. Let's make it go viral. No, not viral, fungal. We want to start the mycelial web spreading from here to the universe and beyond. So, because the edge is where it's at, and we've got no more time to waste. 'Cause my mama always said, if you're not living on the edge, then you're taking up too much space. I said the edge is where it's at, and you all know it. We're all on the edge right now. Yeah, we're gonna see some change, see some things get rearranged, moving on 'cause there's no going back. And my mama always said, if you're not living on the edge, then you're taking up too much space. Thanks very much. My name's Charlie McGee from Formidable Vegetable. I'll be back with the full band later on. But for now, it is my great pleasure to have the privilege of introducing your host for this evening, ABC Gardening Australia's own Costa Georgiadis. Have we got Costa?
Hello, Charlie. How are you?
Oh, I'm fantastic, mate. How's yourself?
Well, look, after going fungal to start with, I tell you, I am feeling warm, cozy, and like I'm going to start sprouting mushrooms.
That's the way.
You have set the scene beautifully with one of your tunes, and I can't wait to hear some more from you and Formidable Vegetable a little later on. David and I have a little bit of a chat.
Well, look, on that note, I better take off and get to the studio because we've got a band to organise. So I'll catch you later. Handing over to Costa.
No. Thanks, Charlie. Well, hello, everyone. It's absolutely fantastic to be a part of this event. I'm watching the live stream happening through YouTube, and there's so many people coming on. There's people from far north Queensland, people from WA. There's all sorts of you. I welcome you all. And first of all, I'd like to start off by acknowledging the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation, which is the land on which I'm streaming from, and what situation we're in at the moment, where everything that's happened in the last few weeks has meant that this kind of communication has come into its own. It's really become a case of how can we overcome distance? And it's always been a challenge, and people are doing it. I've been on Zooms, I've been on Skypes, I've been on all sorts of other platforms over the last couple of days, meeting with people from the Nursery Garden Industry Association to our team at Gardening Australia, and now, of course, tonight, to have this opportunity to chat with David and to be a part of what is an incredible offer from David to launch RetroSuburbia as an ebook, and for it to be open to everyone to contribute and get hold of it at this particular time. Now, I'll just cast your mind back a little. It was 2020. It was February 2018 when we were all down at the National Sustainable Living Festival in Melbourne, and that was where RetroSuburbia was launched. And to think that earlier this year at the National Sustainable Living Festival decided that they would change that format and go with a climate emergency summit, which was incredible insight by Luke and the team to do that. And there was a wonderful few days that brought people from all around the country together. And that's barely 2 years, literally 2 years almost to the day since RetroSuburbia launched. And all of those things that David compiled, not just in the 4 years of him writing the book, but in the 40 years of him working at the big picture of permaculture, for it to come down to tonight where he's launching it as an ebook because we can't get together. There's an incredible, well, I won't say irony, I'll just say it's an incredible reality. And I know that David is going to talk to us about this. So I'd like to start off by just asking you all to give a big welcome to David, who's online down in, are you at Hepburn?
Yeah, I definitely am. Sitting in the office in Meliadora.
Fantastic. Here we are, David. There's a few thousand people at the moment. We've got Jacko South Morang. There's people from Biddigal country in New South Wales. There's people in Bundjalung country up further north in New South Wales. People from Swansea, Drip Point in Victoria. They're here from all around the country, David. Just by way of a setting, put people into gear in terms of how you came to RetroSuburbia, filing all of that time and experience post your other publications to come up with RetroSuburbia and its timing?
Yeah, I suppose I'd see there's a couple of different ways of looking at it, but basically towards the end of the 90s and in the turn of the millennium, I started to see that the crisis of climate change, limits to growth, all of the issues that are sort of boiling up were going to hit us so fast that we weren't going to create a new magic ecological world for us to live in. We were actually going to adapt and retrofit with what we had. And that really meant that people adapting where they already lived. And for most Australians and a lot of people in similar countries around the world, that is mostly suburbia. So this was also a bit of a journey for me from the, if you like, blank slate design, designing rural properties and eco-villages. Of course, those designs are never really a blank slate. Everywhere has a history, everywhere has a context. But that shift to, oh, what about permaculture design where you're dealing with a context which is not ideal? And of course, I'd been working with that for decades anyway, but it was sort of part of a shift in the design process to this retrofitting. And of course, that retrofitting paradigm sort of came dramatically in the 70s, not so much in Australia, but countries hit by the oil crises really strongly, of how to retrofit houses to make them fit for service, to make them better insulated and all of that sort of stuff, to make them fit for new purposes. So that was drawing on that lineage, but also the retro in RetroSuburbia was harking to the idea that a lot of the solutions were there in the recent past, and you know what people sometimes call nanotechnology, or things that were actually quite common even when I was young in the 50s and 60s. So that was a lot of it, and I thought, in a way, permaculture as a movement, sort of the first wave of it was the rugged individualist, sometimes with a family in tow, sort of doing some sort of weird thing, growing weird subtropical fruits in climates where you couldn't do it, and all sorts of things. The individualist, very much the individual person. The sort of second iteration was really characterised by the strong community focus, most dramatically with transition towns that permaculture teacher Rob Hopkins initiated in Britain in the 2000s. So that community level and the individual level. And RetroSuburbia was really drawing on the learnings from both of those lineages to say, hey, there's something between the individual and the community level, and it's called a household. And we all live in households. You know, often they're families, but how come this thing is taken for granted and then everyone just ignores it? Crisis, the pandemic, has thrown us all back into our households, however strong, however weak they are, of this is where we've got to be. And of course, it's a huge shock because we've had decades where the juices have been sucked out of the household economies and put into the money economy. And so now we're actually having to go back and say, gee, we need to rebuild that bottom.
That exactly what you said then, the times right at this point in time, we have this situation where everything you've been writing about is playing out in the suburbs around us. I'm seeing in my street, it's come back to life again. There's people walking the dog. There's kids, you know, riding up and down on their bikes. People are out and about, and there's conversations, and the social distancing is happening, but there's actually life back in the streets. And you said an interesting thing, because I remember in my street back in the 80s when the first high fence went up, and that was the beginning of that distancing of the household to the street, because people had a garage door. They came in the garage door, it went down behind them, and then we didn't know all the people in the street. I didn't remember who they were, because they didn't engage with life on the street. And now we've got this situation where people are actually going out on the street because they're getting stir crazy in their house. So we've got this real opportunity to actually contextualize so many things about what you're talking about.
Yeah, I think that's why we thought we have to available. I suppose when I was writing it, I thought maybe the crisis will emerge in the form of a property bubble collapse and huge chaos, and we won't have the ideas out there before the crisis. In fact, you know, since you launched the book in 2 years ago in the Sustainable Living Festival, the book has gone out there and firstly affirmed what a whole lot of people are already doing. You know, that they are sort of reducing the amount they're working in the monetary economy, getting their gardens going, doing things at home, getting that rebalanced again. And I think that has sort of helped a whole lot of, if you like, early adopters or people who are, you know, been tending to think more for themselves in this, you know, rather than just following what all the signals are in society. And the book has sold out 2 print runs, so that's 11,000 copies, and most of those are on home territory in Australia where the book was written for. And so I think galvanising that is the perfect base from which it can now come out and sort of spread wider. The fact that a lot of people are actually stuck at home, a bit unsure about how to best use their time, there's also that opportunity to read a book like RetroSuburbia as well, because reading is, of course, another one of those things that people are re-engaging with.
You went on an extensive tour when you launched the book. That's the permaculture line.
We'll just turn that phone off. Yes, it is.
Hey. we got a cameo, everyone. Sue Dennett just made a quick appearance. She'll be joining us later. Yeah, having done the extensive tour that you did around the country, what were the things that you saw that really engaged the audience and engaged people with the book, and those first touch points that people had with RetroSuburbia?
Yeah, well, I think the thing, of course, with that tour around the country, the big thing that I was doing was a little bit talking about the book, but it was really doing the presentation of my Aussie street story, which is sort of really a permaculture soap opera starting in the 1950s with 4 houses and how those changed through the years, and then moving on into a future scenario, which was actually called the Second Great Depression of the 2020s. Those events were organised by mostly local councils, and it was an engaging way of grappling with pretty difficult and challenging issues, but showing how we can actually survive and thrive in spite of difficulties, and drawing on some of the lessons from the past. And of course, for me, the Aussie Street characters have become absolutely real people, and this storytelling is I've found is the way that people most powerfully engage with the ideas. And thankfully, actually, one of those got recorded really well. It was down at Morwell in Gippsland to 250 people. So that's on the RetroSuburbia YouTube channel, where people can see me presenting that, because of course I'm no longer doing those presentations.
Now, David, I just want to mention, when we sort of talk, if you can mute when I'm talking, just so we don't get feedback down the line. It happened earlier. I've muted mine. I'll mute mine when you're talking, and if you do the same, that'll help us. Someone mentioned on the feed here, old school landline. Yeah, it was good to hear an old school landline ringing without that digital tone. But look, there's lots of questions coming in. I've just got a couple more things I want to set up with David, and then we'll go to everyone for questions. We've got people, David, coming in from everywhere around the country, and I just wanted to follow through with that context. So you did the tour, you came back, you got that immediate what people's uptake was. That's, I suppose we're talking then, since then, over the last 12 months to now, how has it been translating? And then, of course, the next question is, over the last 2 weeks, what's the real impact on the context of RetroSuburbia?
Yeah, well, I think we found a lot of people were very engaged in setting up their own places and documenting them. And we've had people interested to join their property as another case study on the RetroSuburbia website. But there's also been quite a few people who I think have been a bit cautious about, is their place sort of really important? And then that other question, that with a lot of workshops that my editor, Beck Lowe, has been running and facilitating workshops, the whole thing of renters and their situation. And that's been a sort of bit of a hot button issue. How do renters deal with these situations? And we've got more case studies coming on the website that are people who have effectively navigated that relationship with landlords, often a direct relationship, to be improving the place in a retro-suburban way, and feeling empowered that they can do things where what they take away in their heads, even if they leave the place, is worth more than what effort they put into sort of create gardens or fix the place up. That knowledge and experience was the real asset. I think since the COVID-19 crisis has hit, there's been a massive number of people who've gone, apart from said, shit, we need to get prepared, that they actually know what they wanted to do. They did want to get their gardens happening. They did want to organise things to work from home more anyway. So many things that this has sort of given them the trigger to implement full speed ahead. Clearly, there's a lot of other people, like incredibly confused and challenged by what it means. But I think a lot of people have done, pretty sensible things. And even the sellout of seeds and seedlings is indicative, of people saying, yeah, growing food's important. And a lot of those things are, I think, sometimes only when we get a crisis do we sort of push us over into changing what our priorities are.
I have a couple of comments here that are in line with what you're talking about there. Bastian Kujit said, so lucky these days. And he had a follow-up question with, what can you do in your apartment, which, of course, we can get to that. But DeWall Edible Garden said, I'm up to page 30 and my 5-foot tin fence will be coming down in the coming months for something I can see and talk through to passers-by. So, that really ties into this idea of bringing back that nana aspect of community where there are only low picket fences and everybody dear neighbours.
I think the irony of the sort of social distancing and closing off that's obviously makes it difficult for a lot of the community aspects of what we're talking about, bring the focus back to where is our starting base. In permaculture design language, the zone 0 of the house and zone 1 of the garden. And I think that is, get your own sort of house in order, so to speak. And as Bill Mollison always said, start at the back doorstep. But it becomes obvious how, just connection to people across the fence, in the street, those casual connections, we really value those now because they are our door out of the other aspect of this crisis, which is the digital vortex. So we have this huge privilege of being able to communicate and connect digitally, but we also want to avoid getting sucked down the plug hole of that once the crisis is eased, and re-engaging with direct, real connections, and those connections to people close at hand where we don't have to get on transport, teleport to somewhere else. I think those are very important connections that people can now see are worth developing.
In line with what you were talking about earlier, Natasha asked, what do you use renters to garden at this junction in time with what's going on?
Yeah, that's a good one. The social license has expanded to just take sensible actions, digging up lawns or infilling between the ornamental borders. And obviously those things are better when you can talk directly to an owner. And I think one of the things that the real estate industry that I've been very critical of has been an intermediator that keeps renters and owners apart rather than facilitating a conversation. But the other side of it is, if this impact actually triggers a down spiral in the property bubble that we've had, then having long-term renters that functionally look after a place will be more valuable to an owner than keeping it looking spick and span for putting the property back on, flipping it back on the market. Of this needs to be suitable so banks and other buyers will think it's appropriate, rather than some lived-in sort of weird, slightly less than standard property. That world could unravel quite quickly. And for owners, having engaged long-term tenants who want to do something there could actually become the asset. But I think from a renter's point of view, they should definitely be pushing, because if we're stuck at home, surely our right to grow food is just as important or more important than lining up at Moles and Bullies at social distancing to file in to get a dose of industrial food.
Anna Spatru came through with an interesting question for you. She said, how engaged are the local councils with the idea of suburban permaculture from your interaction with them so far? And I preface that in the sense of, for those of you that may or may not know of Ecoburbia in Fremantle and what they've done with transforming without major structural changes, but retrofitting an existing house so that it can house up to 4 separate I suppose residents in there. How for Anna's question, how are you seeing and what have you seen council interaction being with that level of the retrofit?
Yeah, I think, Shani Graham and Tim Darby in their amazing place Ecoburbia are incredible actors, but they've also got fantastic engagement with their local council. And it's an ambiguous dance where people are doing things that are pushing the boundaries where they may have the social licence, but maybe not exactly all the legal licences, and working with councils and accepting that councils have got their rules, but we've got to push models to sort of change those. And they certainly did that with their goats walking around the neighbourhood, the sort of fairly fancy part of Fremantle in which they live, and that being an accepted an activity as walking the dog. I think we've found that working with councils in doing the Aussie Street presentations, certainly sustainability officers and even mayors and CEOs have been, what's the next thing we can do in terms of engaging with the population? Are we going to get any further by trying to get the majority of people to, change their light bulbs, do the recycling things that a certain percentage of the population are already doing? Or can we actually work in ways that engage other parts of the community that feel disconnected from the sustainability message to adopt it in their own ways? And a lot of them are finding that, yes, RetroSuburbia is a way to achieve. It involves some challenges, and there's some of those questions about what am I allowed to do that came up a lot at these events we did.
I've got a few people on from Murrindrooka and Transition 3081. G'day, Kaz. Welcome, Dylan. Welcome, Jamie Marley. Welcome, everyone. It's just fantastic. There are so many questions here, David. I think we could be on here till about midday tomorrow, and I can't keep up with the scrolling. But on that topic of RetroSuburbia and this progress that we're talking about, Alison Dean asked a simple question, but I think it's the right time to throw it in here. How do you see us keeping the momentum moving, given we've got this supercharging of change going on, and we're not? It's interesting to think we're not going back to sort of normal transmission at the end of this period. So from Alison's point of view, where do you see the opportunities to keep this going, and how can people watching and thinking about taking the book to the next step? What do you suggest?
Yeah, I think first thing in the crisis is making those gentle connections with other people in your immediate neighbourhood that may have not been sort of so attracted to urban ideas, but might be interested if you gave them some seeds, maybe even a garden tool, those opportunities to use a crisis to help someone, and not just in a way of generosity, but some people would see this as Machiavellian, of actually being able to exert influence at that time. Because what we really need is these households to develop into neighbourhood clusters where there then develops a sort of solidarity of support where people can collectively push boundaries and not be in fear of, oh, is the neighbour going to dob me in for doing X, Y, and Z? Do I actually have the social licence? So developing those immediate relationships then allows boundaries to be pushed that force policy changes, because there's no doubt that as this goes on, if we develop this rapidly, it will impact the way the corporate and government-controlled monetary economies, how readily they can rebuild. Because, for example, if food production goes up 100-fold in suburbia, it might make a 5 or 10% reduction in the market, or 20% reduction in the market at the large supermarkets. And that's actually a serious threat. And those systems will notice that. And so we've got to expect that as these things grow, the systems that are at disadvantage from that will in some ways push back. And so we see that there's an ability to bring the sort of solidarity that we associate with something like radical extinction rebellion, people prepared to chain themselves together and stop something happening. Well, could we bring that type of radical solidarity back to just supporting, not stopping what other people are doing, but just ensuring that we have the freedom to live the way we want to, especially when it's good for society, good for the environment, and not hurting anyone else. So I think that sort of solidarity, often people are doing these things and they feel very alone, they feel very cautious, whereas those same people, large crowd, as part of a movement, would be quite bold, even radical, even prepared to get arrested. So I see that lineage of solidarity, which dates right back to the late 19th century, the labour movements and everything. We can bring that solidarity back home, not just to create, trying to stop other people from doing things, but just, no, we want to do those positive things. And I think there would be a much more broad acceptance in society of, well, live like that. If they want to grow their own food, if they want to have a compost toilet, if it's safe, those things, surely that's less of a problem than people saying, no, we've got to stop this bad economy which is crashing the global climate. So I see a connection between those, the radicalism at the climate activism, and bringing that radicalism back home to RetroSuburbia.
I'm just looking at the feed here, David. I just wanted to let you know and let everyone know that's listening, we're actually being joined by In My Room 100, who is saying that they're experiencing a balmy minus 42 degrees in Davis, and that the satellite feed is coming through loud and clear. So it's wonderful to know that, the RetroSuburbia community is reaching out all around the world. And, on that topic you were talking about, over to Formidable Veg and have a music break in 1 minute time. But, David, it's really interesting that Diggers Seeds at the moment is calling on permaculturists to set up bulk seed selling and saving's already underway to meet the needs of people to grow food at the moment. What are your thoughts on that?
Sorry about that. Yeah, seed saving. I was thinking about oldies that are goldies, and this book, The Seed Savers Handbook by Jude and Michelle Fanton of the Seed Savers Network, of course, is still a fantastic book. I think it's still in print, and I think the skill base that exists, that people have been dabbling with this, can help a lot of other people who dabble, but it also will kick off some people who say, no, we need to do this better. We need to actually become more professional at this process. Because, of course, you and I know it's easy to save a few seeds of some things, but other things, to maintain a seed line of, say, corn is quite a challenge. Maybe after the music, I can mention a few of the other resources and, sponsors and supporters who've just been fantastic with this whole RetroSuburbia rollout.
Actually, that was me reading a message that was before we set off this evening. So I don't think Charlie's coming on in 1 minute, but if he is, he'll let me know.
I wanted to mention another book, and in terms of sponsors and supporters, Milkwood Permaculture have been inclusive and in many different ways of what we're doing with RetroSuburbia. And of course, these folks were sharing property with us in our extended household here. During the years we got that book together, and it was a fair bit of madness because they were producing this incredible book, which gives you a lot of the nitty-gritty details of just some subjects: mushrooms, beekeeping, seaweed, and wild food. And I think that level of detailed information and knowledge sharing is, of course, the overview pattern of all of these issues that there is in RetroSuburbia. And going back to the big picture over the horizon ideas, I wanted to mention my future scenarios work, which is actually an online essay that's still up at the website. You can buy the book, but it's also another free shared thing. And wanted to acknowledge Adam Grubb, who's a close friend and colleague, who was really the person who got me to get that work out there, and really provides the big picture overview that's behind the ideas in RetroSuburbia. And of course, his book, the Weed Forager's Handbook with Annie Razor Rowland, is one of the Bibles for and of course then this book, The Art of Frugal Hedonism, which the same authors, but it's really Annie's the lead author rather than Adam, has been an amazing hit. And it was our step into publishing books other than my own books. So Meliodora Publishing is now publishing other people's works in a small way. And this has been a real book that's changed a lot of people's thinking, the life hacks to live a better life now rather than being on the treadmill. So they're, some of the things that I, think are sort of helping with the understanding. And I wanted to move to another one, Carbon Civilization by Samuel Alexander from the Simplicity Institute and Melbourne Sustainable Society Institute. We're now starting to get the academic support for the ideas in RetroSuburbia, and especially with this one, Degrowth in the Suburbs by Sam Alexander and Brendan Gleeson. Brendan Gleeson is head of Melbourne Sustainable Society Institute, which I am now an associate member of, apparently, as Dr. David Holmgren. So there is, we're starting to get the sort of support at other levels, for a lot of this work. So I don't know how, whether the full band is ready to go yet.
Not as yet. So until Charlie gives me the call out, I noticed here Morag Gamble's on from Our Permaculture Life. Oh, they are ready to go. Okay.
Morag's another one who's really done an amazing work with permaculture and supporting RetroSuburbia.
Yeah, she was saying that she's been handing out survival packs to so many people of just bouquets of edibles and perennials, and it's not even affecting a garden. I mean, these are really simple things. And James Woodruff mentioned, what can we do if we see our friends buying seeds and seedlings we know that they're likely to kill? And I suppose, James, the thing you can do there is share things like Morag's daily how to grow something for 5 minutes. She's doing regular things. All of these posts, links, different Facebook pages, Instagram pages, websites. There's so many things we can do, and I think the key thing is that people are asking, and when people ask, that changes the whole, as you said, David, that whole social license, because it shifts the interaction to a reach out rather than a finger point. Now, I think we're going to go to Charlie and the band for a bit of music, everyone. So I can see Mal giving me the thumbs up. They're ready to go. So can everyone send a message and some hand claps on the feed for Formidable Veg, who are going to hit the on.
Hi folks, Formidable Vegetable here. We are coming to you from isolation. We've also got Mal, Kylie and Winks in the house, or in their house.
Howdy, Charlie.
Hi, Charlie.
And we're stoked to be helping to launch the ebook version of David Holmgren's RetroSuburbia, the Downshifter's Guide to a Resilient Future. And I'm sure a lot of you are realizing that what we need right now is a resilient future in this crazy time where pretty much everything we've taken for granted is shifting. And we've been singing about permaculture and resilience and gardening and things like that for about 10 years, but now I feel like it's more relevant than ever. And so we'd like to start with a little song about degrowth, just to give a little bit of hope that these times can lead to something more positive than we had. Hope you dig.
After you grow up, you're gonna grow down. And whenever you breathe in, you've gotta breathe out. When the party is over, you just gotta
Thank you. If you've just joined us, we're at the e-launch of the e-book for David Holmgren's RetroSuburbia, the Downshifter's Guide to a Resilient Future. This has come out as a free or pay what you feel download to try and send it, well, not viral, but mycelial. We want to create that mycelium web to hold up the world in this tough time. So if you want to know how to homestead, garden, create community in your neighborhoods, in the city, even while in lockdown, there's great ideas in this book that can help you to do it. So yeah, thanks for having us with Formidable Vegetable. I'm going to do another one from our first album, Permaculture, a Rhymer's Manual, which is also available as a free download. We've just made all of our music free or pay what you feel to help those of you who might be struggling financially. But this one's called Change.
Nothing's for certain. You never know what's around the bend. In whatever you're dealing, just accept what you're feeling. There's no point in believing it will never end. 'Cause it's changing, constantly changing, in any situation. Well, the only thing that remains the same is change. Like a change in the season, change is there for a reason. Can't stop ourselves from moving around the sun. And there's no point in complaining if it's stormy and raining. Just go and get an umbrella and play in the rain with someone. Because it's changing, every moment changing. Sometimes there's not much you can do. But no matter who you are, you just got to be cool with change. The change is there, make the most of it. Might as well use it for your benefit. Like when your food goes bad, compost it. When there's no more planes, build a pirate ship and sail the seas. You can do as you please. Oh, but only if you know you've got to improvise your way through change. Now I tell you, even if you keep very still, be guaranteed that nothing else will. And if you just sit around wondering what to do, and you don't make change, it will happen to you, yeah. Yeah, 'cause we've got small change and big change and a bit of loose change. Slow change and fast change and a wind change. We've got sea change and tree change and climate change. You change and me change and a key change. rage. Turn the page away from the strange, out of phase, deranged, crazy days. It's about time we engage, start rearranging our brains out of these old ways, behaving like we're insane. Yeah, we've got to step out of our cages, worrying about our wages or the Asian stock exchanges. It's time to turn the pages. Don't be ashamed, don't wear the blame, just drain the main vein of the pain. Take to the stages and become agents of change. Yeah, Mal Webb in the house. Thanks, guys. If you've joined us, you're at the e-launch for the e-book of RetroSuburbia, a Downshifter's Guide to a Resilient Future. We are super excited that David Holmgren and co are launching this as a free or pay-what-you-feel downloadable PDF that we can share and spread as fast as we can around the world, because there is some seriously important information in here, like, as simple as canning and, bottling your own fruit to how to design your house. It's everything we're going to need in a low-energy future, which is exactly where we're heading. I mean, a pandemic is one thing, but the fallout is going to lead to some pretty interesting changes. So if you want to learn how to live a permaculture life, there's plenty of inspiration in here. And there are physical copies available as long as the post keeps going, so you can get them from retrosuburbia.com or holmgren.com.au. But also go and grab the PDF, send it to your friends and family, spread it around. Let's send it fungal. We're sick of viruses. We need mycelia. It's all about connection. Permaculture is about three things: earth care, people care, and fair share. They're the three ethics. And so this next song is from our recent album, Earth, People, Fair, which is about those three ethics and about how we can bring them together to create a sense of home, which I'm sure we're so longing for right now. So I hope you dig it. This one's Earth, People, Fair. As a part of the whole, grow some food for my family food bowl, stand my ground but give up control, know the boundaries but tear down all the walls, won't give up or give in to apathy, gonna plant a tree then plant another 3,000, now's the time to start feeding my soul, feeding the soil, believing anything is possible. Things become clearer. The end of my life is always getting nearer. Focusing on the things that bring meaning. Food, community, love and healing. I'm getting tired of all this moving around. Wanna bring it back home to a simple piece of ground. Been talking about it till my mouth is done, but all I wanna do is make a deeper connection with some people fair. I've been looking for the earth people fair. Show me where to find stray alien wandering this ancient land. So much of the dream that I still don't understand. Been looking at you but I'd rather see you and follow the path of that old dark emu. Someday my body's gonna breathe its last. Yeah, I'm aware that this too shall pass, but till then I'll keep singing to the open air, hoping there's time to advance to people fair. People fair. Yeah, I've been looking for the people fair. Well, show me where to find the people fair. Yeah, yeah,
Thanks, folks. We're Formidable Vegetable. Welcome, if you've just joined us, to the RetroSuburbia ebook launch, A Downshifter's Guide to a Resilient Future. We're singing about permaculture, we're singing about regenerative culture, and we're singing about the kind of world we want to live in when this whole craziness blows over. And trust me, we're not the only ones working on what's going to happen after this blows over. There are a lot of forces at work trying to get back to business as usual. But here's a newsflash, business as usual was not working. So we need to work together. We need to maintain our connections, even though we're socially isolated, to actually create a more regenerative world once this is over. And some of the best ways I've found to do that are within this very book. So go to the link, download your copies, send it around to as many people as you can, encourage them to start growing food, riding bikes, connecting with community, all simple stuff, but powerful. And, we're stoked to be a part of it. I'm right here at the heart of permaculture, Meliodora, and very blessed right now to be surrounded by a very vibrant permaculture system. I know a lot of people in the world are having a really tough time at the moment, but I guess I'm just very grateful for being in the community that I'm in and for my wonderful band. Woo!
We love you, Charlie.
And thank you all for watching as well and for taking on these principles and ethics, because I really think they're going to be something that we can move forward with. This one's a song from our first album. It's called Yield, and it's about the idea of work and what work means. Is work just a job that we go to, or is it something that fills up our soul and our bellies? This one's about the permaculture principle to obtain a yield, which I think is a good one to remember. Here we go. If you have a piece of land, get out there with some seeds and some veggies and get them in the ground. Seems like a lot of people are already doing that. Don't forget to save the seed as well. There'll be more for next year. That's a secret to obtaining a yield. Half alive, never see your kids and wives, and I've got news for you. There's no point doing what you do unless it's somehow good for you. You've got to get a result or two in the form of something real. Now if you're feeling stressed and not the best and have trouble finding happiness, well, here's one thing I will suggest. Obtain yourself a yield. Obtain yourself a yield. Sustain your energy. Don't drain yourself. Maintain yourself. Obtain yourself a yield. Now money's not the only yield. No, you could be making a bigger deal about what you eat for your next meal. You can't run on an empty tank. Ignore the stash of cash in your pocket. Just make a salad with some homegrown rocket. You just have to go out the back and pluck it. No need to go to the bank. You got to work your days for stuff that pays, and not just money, but in many ways. It's time to clear the way the haze. Obtain yourself a yield. Obtain yourself a yield of something you can eat. We can produce some things of use with our own 2 hands and feet. Obtain yourself a yield right in the here and now. Make sure to earn something in return. Hear that from the
sleepy, then you can go and have a sleep. And if you feel like there's not enough air, then try to breathe in very deep. If you're thirsty, then you order, get yourself a drink of water. And if it's gonna be cold and you're feeling bold, I don't know, shear yourself a sheep. 'Cause in any given moment, there's everything you need. Just look around, it will be found. Obtain yourself a yield. Obtain yourself a yield, but take only what you need. It's pretty fun when you're getting some, but there's no need for greed. Obtain yourself a yield, and one for others too. Make sure to see the contents of the deal, what's good for both of you. Well, an easy way to do it is to give stuff to your friends, because the good things you do come back to you, and the yield just never ends. Said the good things you do come back to you, and the yield just never ends. Well, the good things you do come back to you, and the yield just never, ever, ever, ever ends. Thank you very much. We've been Formidable Vegetable. Thanks for joining us at the e-launch of the e-book version of RetroSuburbia, David Holmgren's Downshifter's Guide to a Resilient Future. That future is now here. Let's make it resilient. They've done a very special release as a free or pay what you feel PDF, which we're hoping just gets out there en masse. If you're part of a permaculture network, spread it out. Let everyone know. If you're part of a gardening club, if you're part of a repair cafe or bicycle collective, if you're part of local government, get this out to whoever you can. Let's send it more viral than COVID-19. Let's send it fungal. The mycelium, the web, that's what we need to hold all of us up at the moment. And we're super blessed to be a part of this. We even feature in the composting toilet section. The song Dad's Dunny gets a mention, but highly recommend it. RetroSuburbia, a beautiful and very chunky piece of reading to keep you occupied over the coming months. Thanks very much for watching. Good luck out there and stay well. See ya.
Bye.
Oh, geez, you're back. Unbelievable. How good were Formidable Veg? I've been taking in some of the comments. Sam Ryan, Formidable were roasting the beats. I couldn't agree more. And folk of all trades, if the sound isn't loud enough, turn it up. I agree. And let us dance. Well, that is why I specifically wore my radish T-shirts, because I knew that Formidable Veg would funk it up around the country. And judging by all of the dancing from Hobart to Cairns to Perth to Darwin and everywhere in between, which is exactly what David and Formidable Veg wanted at the launch, a bit of fun. I mean, everyone's at home, so why shouldn't we dance at a launch? Because like we did at the Sustainable Living Festival 2 years ago, the band played and we funked it up. So, well, I've been dancing. I'm just catching my breath. Anyway, well done. Well done to the band. How good was that? Now, David, I just wanted to throw back to you and ask you just what's inspired you to do this web-based release of RetroSuburbia. Can you give us a bit of a background to your thinking and sort of explain to everyone why you've given us all this option?
Yeah, Costa. Well, I'm, of course, just the author, and with me is the publisher, Sue Dennett. So sort of really a joint decision that we've made, that we were going to produce some sort of digital format of RetroSuburbia, but it's been brought forward and we've decided instead of as an ebook, it's not, and it's not one of those ebook formats. It's actually an online book. So you can subscribe to the book and read it online. It's got all of the links in it that, of course, the searchability. There's a lot of people who've actually already got the hard copy book and want to know where that thing was or that reference. There's all the references to the website that are in there. But it's also, because we've released access to that on a pay what you feel basis, this is really stepping more into the sharing economies and taking that risk with our, what in marketing terms is called our hero product, and making it accessible to people who need it for what they can afford. So we're sort of really asking people to decide from their heart what to pay for it. There isn't a price on it. It's what people think it's worth to them. And we also trust that a lot of people, from getting the online book and reading it on screen, which of course there's this huge opportunity at home for a lot of people to do. It's not the sort of book that looks very good on your phone. You do need a bit of a decent screen, but that people will find, enough people will say, we want the real thing in our hands. And part of that is also because, can we really trust all of our critical information to be just online? The old-fashioned book is a really good thing.
Apart from that, it's the accessibility to all the family. I know when my daughter got it, who's probably watching now, she left it on the dining room table, and the 8 and 10-year-old started to dip into it and talk about things. And I know of lots of families that have said similar things. Some families with disabled children also found that the children, through the illustrations, could identify with a lot of things in there.
The other thing we've done is we've gone to another print run of the book itself, printed by Focus Print here in Australia, of course, not printed in China. And so that is a big commitment that another print run, the savings that it represents to do that. So we're hoping that people will want the real book as well. But I think it's the idea of the sharing economies is building that reciprocity and trust that we associate with family, close friends and community, of whether we can do that. But the main thing is there's a lot of people in need of this message now for whatever they can pay. And in doing all this, I really wanted to acknowledge the incredible team of people that we've had behind this. Osti and his team, webmaster for the vision and action beyond any call of duty. Adam and his team at Willing Web for stuff I don't understand. Richard for the RetroSuburbia online edition and the incredible attention to detail to get all of those links working, and of course his amazing graphic design style. Meg in the virtual Holmgren design office for her multitasking enthusiasm for keeping the RetroSuburbia communication humming. And of course, she's the author of The Art of Free Travel, an amazing activist and part of the duo Artist as Family. Beck Lowe for her words and wisdom, keeping RetroSuburbia on the road as an event over 2 years, and Brenna for her art and food through this process of getting this together. And of course there's Elkie and the Virtual HD website with a steady hand on finances in difficult conditions, and Will, who's been behind the scenes tech making the live stream happen, Charlie, Mel and Kylie for music that keeps us going. And of course, Charlie's also been this master of the media and music and publicity orchestration process.
Well, speaking of which, is dinner ready yet? What's going on, guys?
It should be there.
Brett Quinlan in the house.
This is the disaster of having an extended household. They just barge in and want dinner.
We're not breaking quarantine, guys. Don't worry.
We live here.
This is
the
our
extended household. So we have 3 separate dwellings, and we've been quarantined more or less for over 14 days. And we keep a tab with each other in a spreadsheet of where we go in our limited times we go out. So we're hoping to be a little bit exemplary and hoping that people don't freak out at the vicinity of our beautiful household. So we function as one household again now, like we did before.
And I suppose what we're showing by that is the strength of possibility there is at this household scale. So really wanted to mention that. The people I didn't mention are Amy and Fernando, who've been keeping Meliadora property happening, harvesting and all of the things while we've been mad head down in all of this technological transformation of the office to work online. And of course, in normal pastimes, Elkie and Meg would be in the office here working, having lunch provided by Sue, but they're, of course, in their own places and working virtually. But we have the on-site crew here.
And don't forget to look at all you old fogies like me. Don't forget to get the nanotechnology into the heads of these young'uns. They need it.
And just quickly, I've just got to give a big shout out to my band, Formidable Vegetable. Thanks, guys. That rocked. And there was a lot of technological wizardry that had to go into making that gig happen, which, it's quite mysterious. But I just want to give a special acknowledgement for the guy behind the scenes who no one has seen tonight, Will Hook, a.k.a. Winks. He's DJ. Well, actually, no, you have seen him tonight. He's DJ in Formidable Vegetable, but he's also been driving the tech behind this live broadcast, and we couldn't have done it without you, Winks. So thanks heaps. You!
Youngest member of the team.
Youngest member, 18. That's what we need. You just need a young person that knows technology.
Yeah.
But look, I'm hungry, guys. I'm going to go get some food.
Yeah, let's go.
Oh,
You guys
Is it ready?
Let people get back to their lives. Come on.
Let's go have dinner. Come on. Bye, all.
See everybody.
See
Special
ya.
thanks to Robert Pekin for the phone call.
Hey, Sue, Judy Borland says, Sue is my favourite woman. And Raffaland says, totally agree, Sue, our 10-year-old son loves the book. So the stream of people that have been commenting has been phenomenal. David, Fiona Ludbrook said she's absolutely chuffed about the online opportunity because she travels a lot and weight is an issue. And for those of you that don't know, there's close to 600 pages. Is that correct?
Yeah.
And
yeah.
it weighs
2 kilos.
2 kilos. So for those of you that are thinking about, the issues of barbells during this lockdown, if you bought 2 copies of the book at 2 kilos, you could do a solid workout each day, and then to a barbell, and that way you'd make the publisher very happy, and you'd come out of lockdown in incredibly stacked form as well, feeling very strong and resilient. But no, it's a really valuable thing that this online option gives people a chance to access the book without having to carry it with them all the time. So, David, I think I should allow you to head off to dinner, I thought I'd just give a couple of call outs. So, David, thank you for a wonderful launch here tonight. It's been a real pleasure to both events at Birrarung Ma 2 years ago, and now tonight to be launching this online version of the book. I think you summed it up when you said the strength of possibility in the household. And while there can be a little bit of a narrative developing at the moment that everyone's living at home and there's this kind of angst and frustration and desire to get out, but I think that one comment says it all, because the inherent strength within the household is something that the opportunity to incubate and grow in wonderful possibilities on the other side.
And having the last word, mate, really want to thank you for bringing the fringe to the centre stage more than anyone. So thank you.
Thank you, David. Enjoy your dinner. And I just wanted to make a couple of mentions here, because we've had so many people, and wonderful book, It Lives on Our Coffee Table. That's fantastic, Evelyn, because that's another way of being that billboard where people can quietly and inadvertently just pick it up, and then they ask you a question. And when they ask you a question, that sort of shifts the narrative to you to be able to see you, Sue, to be able to discuss it in a different way. It's not a preachy thing then. It's a totally different way. Happy Valley Books. I noticed that Good Life Permaculture is online there, and we even had MVE from the Czech Republic. So it's incredible how many people. We've got Permaculture Homestead, Tanya Vandervet. Meg is a legend. Stevie Burns from Ballarat Permaculture Guild. Thanks, Steve. Steve just said, what a wonderful gesture to put this out there for people to contribute what they can at this point in time. And of course, it remains a very powerful gift to give for anything from birthdays to celebrations to Christmas to anniversaries or whatever. Think about it like that. Charlie's basically the reason I got into permaculture, says Sadie. Tanya Vandervert, hi guys. Nick Ritter, g'day Nick. Good to see you here, mate. You well and truly locked down on the big island down there in Tassie. Sharon Ryan, thanks for introducing us to RetroSuburbia. Fantastic to be sharing this in real time. So Flinders Honeybees, welcome to you. Mikoto from down in Heidelberg, lovely to see you here. I could go on thanking everyone. Mexico, we've even got Canva Lancaster here from Mexico. Please hit the like on this video and follow the RetroSuburbia channel. You can do that. So I think I'll wrap it up. This is the book for generations to come. Fringe to the centre stage in a gold award way. Yeah, thank you, Kirsten. That's very kind. Good on you, Morag from Permaculture Life. Thank you for joining in. Linda Granners, welcome. Kim Rene. And, of course, the team up at Food Connect, who David mentioned, Dougal McLaughlin. Wow, I could go on, but I'll wrap it up because, as you can see here, it's just streaming and streaming and streaming. So, everybody, thank you for joining in on this. Feel free to share it on your socials. Push the share button and let other people join in on the Q&A. And I wouldn't be surprised if David does some more live Q&As of this kind now that the online book has been launched, just so that we can hit up some more questions with people and give them their answers. So from here in Sydney, I want to say thanks to all the tech team. thanks to Formidable Veg, thanks to Charlie and everyone down there with David and Sue at Meliadora. Remember to page, the RetroSuburbia Facebook page, the Meliadora page, Formidable Veg, Milkwood, Good Life, Permaculture, Morag. There's so many things. Here's a big chance to share all of these wonderful resources with people who are reaching out at the moment. And it's a wonderful gift of an opportunity, and make the most of it, because we can really share a lot of educational goodness at this point in time. So from me here in Sydney, I'm going to sign off. Ciao for now, and see you soon.
I'm a human. Check me out, I'm in complete control. Yeah, I'm a human. Fueled by oil and gas and coal. Obey my instruction. Yeah, you better do just what I say. I'm bringing destruction. So go on, get out of my way, 'cause I'm a human, all consumer. Man, I'm human.
Hey man, what's up? Why are you making such a big mess? What's the problem?
Hey, who do you think you are?
Who am I? Man, we're not so different. Listen, I'm human, but I'm part of something so much bigger than me. Just one bud blooming from the branches of my ancestry, roots in the ground. I'm a faithful lover of this land. I'm sticking round, 'cause I'm here for more than just a one life stand. Yeah, I'm human, an old school human. I love being human. That's who I am.
What's the matter with you? Can't you see there's money to be made?
Money, brother, we got everything we need right here. Just relax.
Relax, relax. I'm too stressed out to relax. I'm